Can music without lyrics hit hard or just as hard or even harder than music with lyrics? That's what I'm going to kind of answer today. Today, I'm going to dive into my top 5 instrumental albums, why they're great, and why I think you should also take a listen to them. Hey everyone, it's me, lo-fi musician and producer, Blue Sirens. And like I said, today we're diving into some of my favorite instrumental albums. But before we do, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. So, can instrumental music really be better than music with lyrics? I think so, because when we listen to instrumental music, we're not just waiting for the words to come on to hear what's going to be next. We're not listening for a singular voice, the vocalist, and we can get so many different messages or so many different feelings from instrumental music depending on what instrument we decide to listen to. Maybe it's a lot of electronic instruments and we're focused on the keyboards, or we're focused more on a guitar or a specific synthesizer. Or maybe it's an instrumental rock album and we're focused on the beat, the tempo, how the drums come in and out, or the bass, how it's loud at some parts and how it's soft in other parts. All these things go into the sonic architect of making a song. And as we listen to them, we can hear each individual instrument's voice and the message that they're trying to have inside the song. There are plenty of songs with their own individual message with their instruments that have vocals, but we sometimes don't pull out those messages or those thoughts that were put behind having certain instruments be the way that they are in those songs, because we're just listening to the vocals per se. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes if we don't hear those subtle changes, that's a good thing. Those changes are so subtle that our ear maybe can't hear them unless we pay attention to them, but it makes the song better, but we can't really tell why unless we focus a little bit deeper. So with instrumental music, you are able to focus a little bit deeper into some of these instruments because there's no vocals. And there's tons of benefits from it too. You can use instrumental music for falling asleep, for studying, for focusing, for creating your own soundtrack in your life. No one else is talking over the music or singing on the music. So you can have some instrumental songs have their own meaning or be the soundtrack for your life in your own unique way, because it's up to you to determine the meaning of these songs if there's no one else telling you what the meaning of it is through the vocals. So let's dive in and let's talk about my top 5 instrumental albums. And these are in no particular order because it's tough to say which one's my favorite, because they all are from specific areas and specific times of my life. But the first one I want to talk about is going to be Awake by Tycho. Now this album, I used to listen to this almost every single day waking up. It was my alarm to just have this music start playing. And obviously with the title Awake, it's a great way to start your morning. And the opening track is calm, it's soothing, and kind of wakes you up to get ready for the rest of the day. And as you're getting ready and the rest of the album goes through, there's different breaks in the guitars and the drums to kind of push you into different areas or different aspects of what your day might look like. Overall, this album is very quiet. It's not quiet in the sense of the instruments are quiet, but more so the mood is quiet itself, to where you can still think as this music's playing. And I remember there were a couple of times I was listening to this album when I was driving in LA traffic, which is a pain and is crazy, and this album definitely kept me calm while I was driving. So if you're looking for something to kind of be chill and be calm, this is definitely a solid album for that. And it has tons of guitars and is guitar and drum focused. So if you're into rock music or you prefer guitars over pianos and synthesizers, I think Tycho is a great place to start. And if you'd like this album, his follow-up album does have some lyrics in it. He does have a guest singer on some songs, but just paying attention to the instrumentals on those songs hit so hard, and the ones that have lyrics are also enhanced to a higher level as well too. So I would check out his follow-up album as well. My second album that I want to talk about, also, I listened to this a lot while I was driving, and this is Outrun by Kavinsky. And this one gets a little bit of a cheat because some of the songs on this album do have lyrics or vocals. Some of it's spoken word, some of it is a guest vocalist here or there, and there are remixes of the songs where the original one is instrumental, and there are the remixes at the end of the album that have vocals on them. But if we just listen to the instrumental aspects of the songs, they're really upbeat, they're kind of intense, and it's kind of the 80s synthwave vibe that this album brings that I think is really just great for driving. But it's also high energy, very fast at times, so if you want to listen to this in the gym, it's great for that too. But if you need to move fast and focus on a task at hand that's energy intensive, I think this is a great album to put on. And this is an album that got me into writing instrumental music. Yes, I heard Tycho first, but when I started listening to Kavinsky, I was like, oh, I want to listen to this music more. I want to make music like this. And some of my very early releases, I'm thinking of my EP City Lights, is very inspired by Kavinsky and what he did on this album. But take a look for yourself. If you like driving to electronic music or you need something that's upbeat and fast, this is a solid album to listen to. Now, the next one I want to talk about also has some lyrics here and there, but is mostly branded as electronic music, I would say. And it is A Color Map of the Sun by Pretty Lights. Now, Pretty Lights blew up before this album came out. This album has some lyrics here and there, but it's mostly just a phrase or a sample that's being played. There's no full on, I've got a verse or I've got a chorus that's being sung with. It's mostly instrumentals. And I really liked this album because I picked it up before I went on vacation. And I listened to this album almost the entire time I was on vacation. And it really set the mood for every time I was at the beach or when I was just in the hotel. It has a lot of great tracks on it that are either like heavy and intense or laid back and chill, or kind of are just a little empty and spaced out a bit if you just need to meditate or just need a moment to yourself. So this album, I think, is a really good introduction to instrumental music. If you've mostly listened to albums that have vocals on them or pop albums, this has some good hooks in there instrumentally, and also you're not lacking with the idea of not having vocals. There's actually one song I just remember that does have some vocals on it, but everything else is still a pretty solid album from beginning to end. And I would recommend this if you're trying to get instrumental music, or if you're just trying to see what options are out there for you, because you won't realize how much of this album has gone by until you're maybe like on track 8 and you'll check at the time and see, wow, we've already been listening to this for maybe 20-30 minutes. So Color Map of the Sun by Pretty Lights is definitely a high recommendation. The next one I want to talk about isn't an album, it's an EP, and it's from an unknown artist that I think just doesn't get enough credit. This EP is called Downtime by BLKNGLD. I don't know what word they're trying to spell with that by taking out the vowels. I'm going to guess maybe it's broken gold. I'm not sure. But this EP, I just randomly found on Bandcamp one day. I think one time I was on Twitter way back in the day, like 2010, 2012, and I found a link to it, and I listened to a couple songs, and I thought this was a great album or EP. And I remember listening to this, again, same way I listened to the Awake album by Tycho, almost every day when I was getting up, or when I was studying, or when I was working on things. It's a really fun and cool album to play in the background. There are really good transitions and really great sounds on this. So sonically, I think this EP really is the whole package. I don't know how this artist hasn't blown up already, because this is an EP that anyone says, hey, I want to get into instrumental music, or I just want something chill and electronic. I'm like, this is the album you should listen to. This is the EP. It's only 4 songs, but it's really smooth. It's really nice. And It's pretty unique, I think. I don't think a lot of people were doing music kind of like this at that time. And if they were, this just does it in a different way that is refreshing. Now, the last album I want to talk about is a unique album. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but if you do like lo-fi music or you like electronic music that's a little noisy, I think you're really going to enjoy this album. And this album is called Lo-Fi Lo-V by Sunglitters. And this was just a random suggestion that my streaming service gave me, and I thought, why not? Let's check it out. And I really liked it. This album is very electronic in the sense that it uses a lot of synthesizers, a lot of pianos, but it has a lot of samples in it. But the samples are manipulated in a way to where things are definitely offbeat, but they feel like they still click. There are also a couple of vocal samples here and there that they use either as a transition or just as a quick little break to bring you back into the verse or the chorus. But overall, the album itself, like, you can put it on and listen to maybe the first 6 or 7 tracks and be like, really? That's how much of the album has gone by? And they do callbacks in this album too. So I think like the 6th or 7th track, they're using a riff that they use in the 1st or 2nd track of the album, which I kind of find refreshing, just to be able to be like, oh, you're sampling yourself. You're using this track in a different way than you originally did. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's the thing that electronic or instrumental artists do pretty often, and maybe I should start doing it, where you just take a little bit of your previous song and say, hey, I'm going to intentionally reuse it. Maybe you had a second idea with that riff that you didn't go with, and you want to give that second idea some new life. Could be a cool thing to try on your own music. But these are my top 5 instrumental albums. I think they're really great. I think they'll definitely help with you being able to focus on a task at hand, or just chill out and vibe, or if you just need to pass the time. All these albums have really great elements to them, to where when you put it on, by the time you check to see what time it is, you're probably going to be halfway through the album. So if you need something to play in the background, all these albums I think are great. You could also put my music on in the background too. It's lo-fi music, it's chill, it's instrumental. So I'm going to drop a link to my playlist of releases where you can find my music and just throw that on and listen to it as well. But tell me what your 5 favorite instrumental albums are in the comments below. I'd love to hear them and check them out. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.